Ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be a very clear disconnect between the scale of opportunity that comes with disruptive digital assets versus how most people currently perceive them. So every once in a while, the entire financial system goes through these structural shifts that happen, okay? Now, these shifts that I'm talking about are smaller shifts, but they tend to occur roughly every 10 to 20 years on average, and they're accelerated by many different factors, but mainly accelerated by financial crises, technological disruptions, and even geopolitical changes in the world. But the even bigger shifts, the larger, more consequential shifts in the global monetary system, those major shifts typically happen every 30 to 40 years on average, and they are not your ordinary cycles. Those major shifts are fundamental changes in how the entire monetary system operates from the ground up. And those shifts are usually triggered by major economic stress that's been building up for a long time, shifts in global power, breakthroughs in technology, or especially because of the gradual loss of confidence and credibility in a dominant currency. Now, today, we happen to be in one of those periods right now. The current system that we have is a debt-based system, and so far it's still functioning. But the problem is the system we have today continuously and increasingly depends on constant credit creation, more expansion, rising debt, and continuous intervention from central banks and policymakers to sustain itself. That is the nature of the debt-based system we have today. And so far it works until it has to be extended further and further and further just to keep going until the house of cards falls. Now, over time, that's not a stable foundation, and the architects of that system knew that from the beginning. So currently the system is being prolonged and extended, but it will eventually face its limits as the debt continues to grow and as the currency continues to steadily lose its purchasing power over time. So, while this is all happening at the same time, a new financial architecture is being built in parallel with increasing institutional interest and capital behind it. And it's worth understanding that many of the same architects and institutions that shaped the current monetary system that we have are also the same players influencing the development and introduction of the next system. And they are also guiding how it will be structured and rolled out and creating laws around that. So just something to keep in mind. Now, this architecture that I'm talking about is specifically blockchain technology and digital assets. Now, it will be, with certainty, the next layer of the financial infrastructure. And guess what? It's already being built out in real time, and it has been in the works for a very long time. Now, what's important to understand is that transitions at this scale, at that level, do not just disrupt existing systems in place. They reprice everything built on top of them and disrupt the entire world. They change how value is stored, how value moves, and ultimately how it's used within the system. So it's important to understand that. And from an investment perspective, that's exactly where the real opportunity comes from, because of how early we are in this industrial revolution. Because historically, the greatest periods of wealth creation, if we look back at history, have almost always come from major technological shifts or major changes in the monetary system. Now, what makes this situation and moment even more different and unique than prior ones is that we happen to see both happening at the same time. Monetary system change and technological advancements on a global scale. So when the rails of the system change, smart money, big money, capital eventually completely reallocates in the system to get a piece of that pie before the new system is introduced. And throughout history, transitions of this monumental scale are actually where the most asymmetric opportunities have been created for those that were positioned strategically and correctly, and for those that were early enough to understand what was happening around them. And right now, as we speak, less than 10% of the global population, over 8 billion people, less than 10% have any real serious exposure to cryptocurrencies and the digital asset market as a whole. That tells you how early we are in this disruptive technological revolution taking place today. And what that means from an investment perspective is that the wealth creation phase is still ahead of us. Now, let me give you more context about exactly why the disruptiveness of this technological revolution with blockchain and digital assets is monumentally greater than any previous industrial revolution that has happened in the past. The reason is because the current system we have today is built on layers of intermediaries. Capital moves through banks, clearinghouses, custodians, all within regulatory frameworks, and the middlemen get a piece of the pie. Now, every step of the way introduces more delays, costs, dependency, and overall friction in the system. And that structure has always been in place. Why? Because it benefits the middle layers of the system, which are the middlemen I was talking about, specifically commercial banks and the financial intermediaries that sit in the middle and get a piece of everything happening. It's where a significant portion of revenue, control, and positioning comes from those guys in the center of it, which is exactly why this whole transition we're seeing with crypto and blockchain is extremely disruptive and greater than anything we've ever seen before throughout history. It's simply because technologies like blockchain technology, digital assets, CBDCs, UBI, compress and in many cases remove completely all those previous functions that were necessary. Settlement becomes faster, cheaper, more efficient, and let's be real, traceable, transparent, and in most cases, more direct, and that makes it more efficient. So naturally, that creates a lot of resistance from the parts of the system that stand to lose from this shift, such as the big banks up there or the commercial banks, okay? But at the same time, while all of that is happening, the institutions at the very top, the shadow banks, behind the scenes, the big players that call the shots, okay? The global monetary authorities, the policy setting bodies like the IMF or the BIS, all those big players behind the scenes that call the shots are approaching this very differently, because why wouldn't they want a system that can actually give them more control and oversight? Okay? Why wouldn't they? They want it, okay? So in many cases, the players at the top, the big players, are not resisting this transition we're seeing. They're actually embracing it, they're guiding it, and they're creating laws around it. Because while this technology reduces a lot of reliance on traditional intermediaries that were necessary in the traditional system, it also introduces new capabilities at the system level, particularly around efficiency, visibility, and of course coordination. And the big players at the top, they want that. So what you're seeing is really a divergence in incentives from the big players and the commercial banks. Parts of the existing system are basically being disrupted, and the broader framework is being completely redesigned at a higher level. So this is extremely disruptive, and this is where the real shift is actually taking place. So blockchain technology changes the system at a structural level. It allows value to move with near instant final settlement, which is something we've never seen before, across borders without relying on multiple counterparties and intermediaries. This is something we have never seen before, and it basically compresses time, reduces all the friction in the system, and introduces a level of transparency that the traditional system simply can't offer. And that's why the big players at the top really want this more than you. Now, that's just the surface level stuff. But what really matters is what this technology really enables. Okay? So when we talk about assets like equities, fixed income, real estate, and commodities all being tokenized and brought on chain, that is the big wealth transfer there. So you're no longer operating within the same system once that happens, and it will happen. It's coming. Markets by that point will become continuous, ownership becomes fractional, and of course, financial instruments become programmable. So while many parts of the system are being upgraded to some extent, what we're getting is a structurally different framework entirely from the ground up. And guess what? We're still in that early transition of this disruptive revolution. So when you zoom out, look at the trend and where this is heading, compare this space to global capital markets. Digital assets are still relatively a small allocation in the grand scheme of things. Real world asset tokenization, that's coming. It's still in its early stages. Real global utility and adoption are still in their early stages. And capital eventually will rotate towards more efficiency, towards liquidity, and towards systems that reduce friction and become more relevant in a future where the world is tokenizing all forms of value. And that is the direction we're heading, okay? Big institutions, BlackRock, Larry Fink, they all know this. Now, before I continue, if you're looking for an easy to use platform to gain any level of exposure to a wide range of digital assets, different cryptocurrencies, or even fully allocated tangible assets like gold and silver, whether that's buying, selling, trading, or even rolling over a 401k, I highly recommend my partners at iTrustCapital. I personally use them myself. And additionally, this summer, they just announced that they will be rolling out access to over 8,000 stocks, including top commodity names. So this is an additional feature they're going to have. If you're interested, I did put the link down below so you can explore it further. Make sure you do your research and just make sure it's right for you. Now, while the direction of where the financial system is heading at this point is extremely clear to anybody paying attention, it's important and really critical to understand what this entire shift actually brings with it, okay? Can't look at one side and forget the other, because efficiency that comes with this shift and other things as well, it also brings control, programmable money, digital identity layers, real-time transparency, and it introduces the ability for them, the big players, to monitor, restrict, and influence financial activity in ways that the current system we have today can't, okay? So this isn't a clean transition into a full decentralization as most people think. It's actually a reconfiguration where efficiency, control, and access all evolve together. And to be honest, I think that nuance really matters, okay? So be aware of that. However, it does not change the investment case. And why is that? Because simply what we're witnessing today is the early phase of capital migration, getting a piece of the new system. And historically, that's exactly where the opportunity and asymmetry live. There will be volatility. There will be more regulatory pressure. That's expected. Most assets in this space, realistically, will not survive, just as many companies went bankrupt during the internet boom and the dot-com bubble. That is expected as well. And that's why good asset selection is key. But the underlying dynamic does not change anything at all. And this is where the investment case is extremely clear at this point, based on where we're heading. Because when you have a system that is structurally more efficient, faster, more scalable, and the future, capital doesn't just participate and get involved with utility alone. It reallocates towards it and owns the assets and the technology that will carry their value from the old system into the new system and the assets that will appreciate in value. And every major financial and technological revolution and transition throughout history played out the same way, okay? So what we're looking at here is not just a new asset class, although that is what it is, but we're basically looking at the early stages of capital shifting from legacy infrastructure and traditional rails and asset classes into a new financial system, into new opportunities. And adoption is still relatively low compared to the size of global capital. And that's where the asymmetry exists. That's the opportunity, because the upside is tied to global adoption, capital migration, capital rotation, and continued currency debasement, which is inevitable in this debt-based system, which creates asset inflation. So markets are still not pricing in what this will be in the future, okay? We are still on that path, and we are in the early stages of it. Imbalance is where opportunity comes from when you're early. So to be clear, this isn't about looking at digital assets through a very short-term lens or trying to time every move unless you're a trader. But it's really about understanding that we're in the middle of a structural transition, and the current system is not going to disappear overnight, but it is being gradually replaced piece by piece, and capital will also rotate into the new system. And the next system is already being built in real time, with or without the majority paying attention. And that's exactly where the opportunity is. Because at the end of the day, the key is recognizing where capital is going over time and where it will be in the future. And understanding that that window is still open, but it will never always be open indefinitely. And this is where it's so important to really understand that once the window closes, a lot of the meaningful upside will be gone at that point, because the window will not stay open forever. And by the time it becomes obvious to most people that finally catch on, the move will already be done by that point, okay? And the opportunity by then, once the move is done, will look very different from what it is at the moment. So rather than just being optimistic or pessimistic about what the future holds related to this space, what's important is strategically positioning accordingly and front running where that capital is eventually going to rotate to. Take care, you guys.